All right, we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Transformative Healing for Mental Health and Trauma. I am your host, Gina. I am a certified neurosomatic practitioner, and I want to welcome you all to our Monday night live podcast. Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you are new, we welcome you. We are a live podcast that focuses on bringing truth and the neuroscience and the neurobiology behind what the correlation is between childhood trauma, adult trauma, and mental health. There's a huge correlation. And so week after week, we kind of dive into different topics. We bring on professionals to kind of help you on your transformative journeys. And tonight I have the pleasure of introducing you to Christina. And Christina is a certified therapeutic recreational therapist. And so welcome to our podcast, Christina.
Thanks for having me, Gina.
Oh, you are welcome. You're welcome. And so on tonight's episode, what I love is we'll be discussing what exactly a therapeutic recreational therapist is, what they do to help trauma survivors, those who struggle with mental health, and how beneficial they are for people that are on their own recovery journeys. Recovery meaning trauma survivors, actually anybody that's in recovery, I would assume, is what recreational specialist. But one thing is a lot of people, I know I haven't heard of one. It's probably been a couple years. So I don't know if it's a new concept, but I think it's a fantastic concept that they're implementing, or at least trying to get out there for people that, do need that extra support. And so I think there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknown benefits that recreational specialists actually offer. So let's start off with this. So Christina, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am from a very rural area in Ohio. And actually I'll get to this further into this part of it later, but I stumbled upon recreational therapy, actually. That was not my initial go-to for school. But I recently decided to get some chickens, and that is a completely new adventure for me because I grew up in the country and currently live in town. So
isn't it always funny how that usually ends up happening? So yep. And stuff. And so, yeah, so it's interesting when you switch, like for me, so I didn't grow up in the country. I didn't grow up in town. I actually grew up in the city. So the city of Massachusetts. And so moving here over 30 years ago, it's like, man, I like the slow pace of things. I love where I live. It's very rural as well. But it's just interesting when you kind of move and then you're like, man, we lived in the country for a short time and I actually hated it. Because I was so used to the city life. I like that, but I'm learning as I get older to kind of adjust to living just this peaceful life. And so when I go back home to visit, my nervous system is just all out of whack because I'm not used to that. And I'm like, man, I've been here 3 days. I'm ready to come home. And so, yeah, so I get it. But it's just interesting. You grew up, now you're in the, in the town, kind of like a city in a way, maybe not a major city. And so, yeah. And so do you have chickens where you are or no?
We have 4 chickens. Yes.
Do you have a rooster?
Thankfully not, because in town you are not allowed to have a rooster.
Oh, good. The neighbors would probably be out there yelling at 5 o'clock in the morning at you.
Well, the funny thing is our neighbors actually have chickens and ducks.
So you got to listen to that quack quack all night or all day or whatever it is.
Yes.
Oh, yep. Of course. So explain to us, let me go through my questions here. I had to write some things down. So if you don't mind, could you explain to us exactly what a recreational therapist is for our listeners who might not be familiar?
Yes. So basically, a recreational therapist uses activity-based interventions, as the title suggests, mainly through recreation and leisure, to help people achieve their goals, whether it's physical health problems, whether it's mental health struggles. The array of things that we can do is actually pretty awesome. but it gets more specific, dependent on the area that you are focusing.
Wonderful. So can you give us an example? Like we are, our channel is focused more towards trauma survivors and those who struggle with mental health. Can you give us an idea of what you would do? I know it's case by case, but can you kind of give us an idea of some of the things that you would do with somebody that has experienced trauma or mental health?
So, kind of like what you said, the options can vary patient to patient, but a lot of so I currently work with a lot of youth and their families.
Okay.
So part of what I do is, strength building, as far as having them identify their strengths, and then building off of those strengths. So if a client has interest in, let's say art, what that would look like is, okay, are you currently involved in any art programs, or do you have the supplies that you need to do art activities? From there, dependent on the answers that they give, then we look at, okay, are you involved in art clubs or different, aspects at school? Does your town or does nearby towns have, art centers or different clubs that you can get involved in? So again, it's basically trying to get them to identify what strengths they already have, and build off of those strengths. And then for the clients that are really struggling and have either haven't been utilizing their strengths, or have leisure interests at that moment, or have turned to drugs and alcohol or those types of things. Again, it's trying to identify what their interests are, or what things they're capable of doing at that moment, and trying to break the barriers for them to be able to do those activities.
Oh, I like that. So you're with them every step of the way on their journey then. Like if they're doing some art or art therapy, are you there with them while they're doing those types of things?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it just depends kind of where they are at in their journey, per se,
Okay.
with those activities. So for example, I have a freshman high school student who is very involved with art and does like to do all those things. So for her, it's more of reminding her to use that as a coping skill, because that is one of her coping skills. So, if she's starting to, get overly stressed out, or, starting to have suicidal thoughts or those kinds of things, it's reminding her, okay, did you forget to, work on art, or did you, are there other things that you can do? Again, if it's, sometimes it will look like us doing a craft project, or, something like that. It just kind of depends, again, on person to person, and where they're at, with doing those things.
Yep. And I like that. I like that because I think even knowing that they have that extra support, and knowing that because a lot of trauma survivors, they when they and so let me back up a minute. I just want to say, so I love that you reiterate to them and go over and say, hey, you have all of these skills. This is something that you can use. Like if you become stressed, overwhelmed, if you have the ruminating thinking, you can go back to art. You can do something else instead of just allowing those things to take control of you. But what I think some people don't understand, and I talk about this all the time, is that when trauma survivors go through things, and I'm sure you know this, and if not, that's okay. The prefrontal cortex, when you're triggered, actually shuts off. And so when the prefrontal cortex shuts off, those skills kind of go out the window.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured you did. And so I love that you reiterate that to them. And so some of the things that I like to do is I like to leave my coping tools out in the open for me. So, I do certain neurosomatic art. And so that has been a huge tool for me.
Mhm.
especially with a lot of the things that I've had going on, things that are coming up. And so I make sure that I leave it out so I can see it. And then if I become triggered, and my nervous system just starts going wacko tobacco, I
Mhm.
can hopefully look and go, oh, start drawing,
Mhm.
and things like that too. So I just love, I love that you do that, and I love that if they need you, you're there, so you can go to a session with them,
Mhm.
and give them that extra support. And I love that, because I think that's really beneficial, to when you're working with them,
Mhm.
and building that safety and that security with them, and and using their strengths. So I love that I love that you're able to do that with them, and stuff like that too. And so, and I can just tell, we've talked,
Mhm.
before, just never like this, but I can tell how genuine you are and how passionate you are. And really, you can feel that. A lot of people are like, you don't know, but when you work with people, like,
Mhm.
I can feel your passion, just
I
listening to you.
I agree with that. You can tell a
Yeah,
lot.
you can, and you're very passionate about it, and I love it. And so I just think it's a huge thing. Somebody did have a question for you, and this was a question that I was going to ask later on, but so Sly Fox asked, how does fishing work as recreational therapy?
Again, it depends on, specifically if we're looking at somebody who, is in the physical health setting. So, like if they're recovering from a stroke or obviously mental health, it looks different in that capacity. So, since everyone is into fishing and are trauma survivors, one of the aspects would be, um, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not a trauma survivor, but I feel like a lot of times um, for trauma survivors, it might be the case that um, until they really work through what's happened in their past, they may feel on edge or unable to truly relax and unwind. So fishing, it could be, it may sound simple, but it could be the simple idea of just using it as a relaxation technique. For somebody that, has had that, um, um, I can't think of the word right now, but that, on edge feeling,
Yes.
and can't truly unwind, um, just getting them out, you know, let's back up and say, okay, they haven't been fishing for years and, um, you know, for whatever reason other than, just the trauma aspect of it. So for somebody who's had really, um, really complicated things happen in their life, um, kind of one of the steps that we would take in rec therapy is, okay, if you haven't been out on the lake or if you haven't even had a fishing pole in your hand for how long, what does that look like? So, for like myself, if I loved fishing all the time, I could just go out and, take my pole, go whenever I want to go, spend however much time I want to be out there. Um, but for a lot of people with mental health things going on, you know, half to three-fourths of the battle is getting them to do those activities. So sometimes it might just be, going out to the lake and actually just driving out there. That might be, the only thing that they can do that day. But to get them out of their house, to get them back into doing something that they want to do, that might take quite some time. I feel like I'm rambling, but
No, no, no,
that's
you're fine.
just one aspect. Like that might be just one part of the goal to actually get them back to fishing on their own. Um, and there's a lot of other things, that kind of need to be taken into consideration, um, like barriers, like I said earlier. Okay, does this person have only, mental health struggles? So are they physically able to get out there? Do they not have any transportation issues? Do they not have any financial issues? So we have to look at the whole person in and of itself, first of all, to see what other barriers they might have before we can even get them out to the pond.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously, like I said, the relaxation is one aspect of it. Um, you know, self reflection. I can't think of a good example right now of how fishing would be a self reflection activity, but you know, a lot of that again is building their confidence back up to who they were before, you know, all of these trauma, um, you know, all of their trauma started taking place.
Yes. Uh, and it is, yeah. And you weren't rambling at all. You were actually making perfect sense. And with everybody being over, everybody fishes, and a lot of them, like Jeremy, I believe Jeremy, he actually works with. Yep. So he said, I just got home from rec therapy. The lake was peaceful. So he has, where he lives in Indiana, he actually works with a recreational specialist there. And so I'm just going to put him on the spot for a minute because I'm just so proud of him. And I'm sure he's probably not told that enough, but hopefully he's still here. But I'm proud of him because he really went from being there's some things that he has. And so he didn't like to get out. So he
Mm-hmm.
was kind of isolated. And so when he started working with, his recreational therapist after he went to the VA with all the things that he had going on and things like that, he's really starting to come out of his shell. And I'm just so proud of him with all of the challenges that he faced. But they got him a recreational therapist. He gets out on the water. He goes fishing with his brother. They try to do tournaments. I don't know where he's at with that because he did have an injury. But there's just a lot of things that with everybody else, but just him. I'm just proud of him because it just goes to show. I mean, and I'm bringing it up because you being a recreational specialist, that's who he's working with, and just to see the benefits of what he's able to do now and take that. So he had agoraphobia with panic disorder. And so, yeah, so he was pretty much housebound,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and just afraid to go anywhere until he was able to work with a recreational specialist. And just to be able to see him come out, and he gets on, his brother's podcast. They have a fishing podcast. He gets on there. He does tournaments. Just to see him as like, holy mackerel. I didn't know him before, but, just a little bit, but just to see the transition unfold, it's just absolutely amazing. And so while you were talking, I actually looked up what self-reflection and fishing is. I'm a big Chat GPT gal. I absolutely love it. And so it says, self-reflection and fishing is a powerful and often overlooked aspect of the experience. Whether you're casting alone on a quiet lake or waiting patiently on a riverbank, it says fishing forces you to slow down. You can't rush a bite. That quiet waiting time opens up space to reflect. Am I comfortable being still? What does it feel like to wait for something and not control the outcome? And I love that because week after week, that's kind of what we talk about. So it's interesting that we're talking about fishing and self-reflection, because I always tell them, like, are you able to sit with that feeling? Like, and when you go fishing, what do you do? Yes, you're excited to catch fish, but are you able to really sit with that feeling?
Exactly.
So, yep. It says may find peace in the repetitive motions, casting, reeling, breathing with nature. I talk about that all the time because it's part of the trauma-informed movements. That's a 3-part movement. So it is. It's the casting, reeling, and the breathing. And then it's the paying attention of being able to feel that tug. And so you have to be mindful. And that's what I love. It's a matter of using all of that self-reflection, awareness, mindfulness. People just don't realize that.
Yes.
So I love that we're on that topic because obviously the whole chat is all my fishing family and things like that too. And so this will definitely help them understand, why fishing really is a wonderful benefit for them and things like that. Now, for me, on the other hand, I go fishing. I go because my husband enjoys it, and so I go with him. But I have to kind of tell you a story before I ask you another question because they all know it. We talk about it and they get a kick out of it. but we would fish last year, and I haven't been fishing this year because of my eyes. So I'm still waiting for my eyes to recover before I go fishing. So if I get something in my eye, I don't get an infection anyway. And so last year when we went, I was so irritated fishing. Like I really just wanted to throw my rod in the reservoir because I was like, I'm done. Like this is so stupid. I hate fishing. It's the stupidest thing. Whoever created this, it's dumb. And so I was on a rampage. Like I was just raging, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Well, here's what was happening. Gina was just probably overheated, but in my mind, I wanted to catch a fish so badly, and I was so disappointed
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't catching a fish that I let my emotions take over.
Yes.
And so I was furious that I didn't catch a fish. And so when I came home over the next couple of days, I started reflecting and going, oh, that's not what fishing is about. Fishing isn't about catching the fish. It's about being out in nature. It was about being with my husband. It was about relaxing. And so I had to change my mindset and go, if I sit there all day and I don't catch anything, it's okay. I'm still with
Exactly.
my husband. I'm still having a good time. I love being out in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really had to do that flip the switch because I was just like, I hate it. But I didn't really hate it. It was just obviously my emotions were roaring because I was so mad that I didn't catch a fish. And so I do like it. What I would rather sit out in nature than fish. Absolutely. I am a nature girl. I will sit out in nature all day. And I don't have to fish, but I go fishing because I do enjoy it. Not, I mean, I guess there is, the therapeutic benefits I didn't think about, but I do enjoy it.
Well, and I have to laugh too because you hear all these cliches about and jokes about like different jobs and how this works into that and whatnot. And I saw one the other day and it cracked me up because it literally is the exact truth. So it's um basically says something along the lines of a recreational therapist won't see a fishing activity or won't see um playing a video game. They will see all the benefits of it and then, list them off or, be able to tell people. And it's the exact truth because I have to remind myself sometimes, kind of like what you were just saying. We're human too. So I have to remind myself yesterday, that sometimes we get overwhelmed and sometimes, we forget. We're so busy trying, not busy, but we're so mindful of, trying to help everybody else and trying to remember to tell everybody else, like, this is how this helps you, what are you doing to help yourself? And then we kind of forget, like, oh, I have my own coping skills that I need to use sometimes too.
Yep, yep, yep. And yep. And I think sometimes not people, but I think sometimes we forget that. We just
Yes.
get so involved, so just so caught up in the moment. And then we're like, wait a minute. Yeah, I know that. I should have known that. And then you kind of go back and you kick your backside because you're like, I should have known that. But then I have to look at it like, oh, you know what? I'm human. I have to give myself grace. And hopefully the next time around,
Yes.
I will be able to catch that and to use those coping skills and things like that too. So it's just like, man, oh man. But even as professionals, I tell, week after week too on here, and I tell them I'm human. You'll
Mm.
see, like there's times that I get on here, and like I said in the beginning, talking to you, off. There's times that my mind just goes wandering, and I was like, wait a minute, what was I talking about? Or somebody asked a question, and I was like, oh, what was I don't even remember what I was even talking about. And so, at first I was embarrassed when that happened, and I would just be like, oh God, please don't let this happen. I don't, but then I thought, what better way to show them what a trauma survivor goes through than to have it happen live, or even if somebody goes back and watches the replay. So then people don't know that, then people know that they're not alone, that
Right.
what's happening to them, other people experience the same things. And so I was like, oh, okay. So it happens. I'm just like, well, there goes my brain again. It's off in left field somewhere. Sorry, it'll come back in a little while, and things like that too. So, and things like that. So I'm like, it's okay. Things like that too. So, Sly, I love reading some of these comments. I don't go fishing to catch fish. I go to find peace, and catching a fish is the bonus. Well,
Amen.
absolutely. Yep. and so that's, that's one of the things that I'm trying to look at. And another thing that I love, and then I'll ask you another question because we'll stay on this fishing topic for a while. But one thing that I noticed with fishing is I could tell like my mind and body wasn't connected. And this is another thing too that I absolutely love. So this is something, maybe, to use with your clients and stuff as well, is that, fishing is not only breath work and mindfulness and then the trauma informed movements as well. But the mindfulness, what it is it actually teaches you to be mindful of being able to feel when the fish come and they're biting your lure.
Mhm.
And you can feel it. I wasn't feeling it before. Like I could feel if I was using, I'm thinking it was probably a spinner bait. I think it was, and I could feel it on my rod, but
Mhm.
when a fish would bite, I couldn't feel it.
Mhm.
It was just I was amped up in the anticipation. I don't know, but I couldn't feel it. So that's what I'm trying to train my brain now, is to go, okay, what does it feel like when the fish hits it? And so
Mhm.
I'm trying to get that mindfulness and stuff in there. And so
And that's,
I'm trying.
you brought up a really good point, because and I'll actually use that moving forward. But sometimes in the mental health side of working with clients, you think of all the mindful aspects of something that are the easiest to think of, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, like you said in fishing, like the relaxation, the patience with it. But you brought up, actually feeling, the pole moving. And, in rec therapy, like obviously working with individuals, with physical health issues, that would be a goal in and of itself, because it makes sense. Trying to have somebody that's had a stroke, depending on what side of their body and, what all has been affected, that might be a very easy goal to identify, because again, they might not be able to physically feel that response, at the beginning. But I never thought of looking at that from a mental health, and trauma side of it. So thank you.
You're welcome. I got all kinds of tips and tricks or things that I've learned. So if you need anything, you just let me know. I'm always reading, always, and I don't like reading, but I'm always reading and trying to catch up on things and trying just to, because it's so many things are still developing, and then like you got the neuroscience and the neurobiology, and so many things are just it. Yeah, it's just so many things are coming
Yes.
about recovery and healing and stuff like that, and the different things that are going on. It's like holy smokes! It's so I really have to stay on top of it. So when I work with my own clients as well, I know what's going on, and even with doing the neurosomatic art, it's the same thing. I have to be very mindful of what's going on and looking at their drawing and going, oh, what are they drawing? And listening to cues and what they're telling me. And it's like when they draw and they tell me what they're doing, I have to put that together. So I have to be mindful of that as well. So really, really buckling down and going, okay, I have to do this. And so really paying attention. So I really have to, not that I really have to pay attention, but I'm very attentive in those sessions, just like I am here. So I understand what's going on, and I'm not spacing out in left field somewhere, because that's what would happen. Then I'd be like, do 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 do.
And that's the one time that you get a really important piece of information and you're like, oh, what was that?
Yep, yep. And then I'm like, oh crap, why? Yep, I missed that. And I was like, can you repeat? And then I hate to say, can you repeat that? I missed that, And then I'm like, oh, this really stinks. But yeah, so I am it, and that's what I love, is just building that mindfulness. And so that's where, another thing that, love that you can implement that in what you do and what you do as well. Cause even art has really been like I said, a life changer for me. Really, really building that mindfulness and in myself. And it all goes back to safety. And I know that's my issue. It all goes back to safety. And I think that's When you can start being safe with somebody, like for you doing recreational therapy, when your clients start becoming safe with you, they can start overcoming more of those challenges. And it's the same with me.
Yeah.
And it's safety. And so self-coaching myself versus having somebody coach me is totally different. Totally different. And so it's the same thing with what you do. I think clients, some of your clients, you'll find that they love having you there for that extra support. And some of your clients are probably like, yeah, no, I can do this on my own.
Yep.
Yep. And so, yeah. And I think it goes back to safety. You are part of their safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. But this brings up another topic that this wasn't a question I was going to ask you, but actually this just came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever dealt with codependency with a client? That just literally came to mind because I'm like, do they depend on you?
Mm-hmm.
Not, I mean, okay. Do you understand I'm sure you understand what,
Yes.
yeah. And have you ever had that happen? Because I think that could possibly happen.
Not from a recreational therapy
Okay.
aspect, but as a case manager, yes.
Okay. Yep. I can see that. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. One person specifically comes to mind right off the bat.
Yep. Yep.
Just very, and kind of like what you were saying a little bit ago. If he's having a good day, it's, oh, I don't need your help, I got this, what have you. And then it can literally be the very next day, I need my meds, or, are my meds, do you have my meds? I need to go to the store. My dog needs, everything
No.
under the sun.
Oh.
And you never know for sure, which way,
Oh, wow.
which side, but
Which one you're going to get.
how he is doing. So
Yep. Oh, wow. So do you take them like grocery shopping and all that? Is that a part of what you do too?
Dependent on what they need, yes.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's pretty good then. I mean, that's not too bad, I guess. As
Yes.
long as it goes smooth and easy and things like that, then I guess that's not too shabby. So if anybody has any questions that you would like to ask Christina, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat, and then I can go ahead and ask her. Scott, whoops, wrong one. I was like, what? Scott says, I think recreational therapy is an amazing tool. And absolutely it is. And so, we're honored to have Christine on here and kind of shedding some light on exactly what it is, the benefits of it. And so, it's an amazing tool, that we have. And I don't think a lot of people know that it's another tool or another resource on their recovery journey and things like that too. And so, hopefully more people will start understanding what it is.
Yes. Well, and that's kind of where my, I guess, professional journey has kind of, I don't want to say branched off because it hasn't exactly branched off yet, but in our area, because it's so rural, basically inpatient mental health and nursing home setting, like in the nursing home setting, that's predominantly the only two areas where recreational therapy takes place in where I live.
Okay.
What I have found, like I was just referring to a little bit ago. So I'm getting off a tangent for a minute, but I promise there's a reason.
No, you're okay. Nope.
So, I'm still a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. Like I keep my certification and all of that. But because there are very limited jobs in my area, I am a case manager in outpatient behavioral health or community behavioral health. So,
Okay.
But kind of within the last year and a half that I've worked where I work, I knew recreational therapy would be a benefit, but it was one of those where you truly don't know how much of a benefit it's going to be until you actually start working in that setting. And so I use recreational therapy every day. I just don't make the goals for recreational therapy every day. So, I haven't taken anybody fishing in my current job, but a lot of the clients that I work with, especially the younger kids, a lot of them struggle with managing their anger because of trauma, because of X, Y, other Z, other, reasons.
Yes.
But 99% of it is truly a response to their trauma, and they don't know how to release it. They don't know how to deal with it.
Nope.
So, and for a lot of them, yes, they do have different interests and things that they like to do for fun. But again, they get in trouble with the law. They get in trouble at school or in a lot of different ways because they don't know how to use the strengths that they have to use that as their ammunition, to
Yep.
move forward in a good way, basically.
Oh.
So it's, yeah. So
And
I'm
that's
using
hard.
rec therapy, but I'm not using rec therapy. So
Okay. Yeah, and it does stink. Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad that you're able to use it, where you're at. Hopefully things will grow and more people will start recognizing it because it truly is just a remarkable source
Mhm.
to really help.
And the individual that you have on there who is receiving recreational therapy, I actually did it was my first presentation for rec therapy, but I basically did one earlier this, not school year, sorry, earlier this in 2025.
Okay.
But basically what I did was I had used the my current job as the reason for why it's so important to have recreational therapy in the outpatient behavioral health setting, because again, in my area, it's there there rarely is rec therapy, number one, and then number two, it's in what I would call a closed setting, so within the hospital or within the nursing home. But I feel like there's a huge disconnect, and I've heard in bigger cities it's not quite the case, so maybe the individual that you have on here might be able to shed a little bit of light. But for bigger cities, there are some people, or there are some places that have rec therapists in the outpatient behavioral health setting, but around here again it's non-existent basically.
Yep.
So again, it's shedding the light of what is it, and then how can it be an asset and not trump anything else. It's an added piece, not something to take away from anything else.
Yes. Yes. I'm asking him a question. Asking him now, but Jeremy, is your rec therapist? Is it through the VA? I'm thinking that's where I could be wrong, but I'm thinking, and so that's, and that's the thing. There's so many, like my wheels are spinning, like listening to you and the things that you offer, like my wheels are spinning. I'm going, can you branch out on your own?
That is a work in progress.
Okay, that's where, okay,
Yeah.
good.
So
Okay, so,
in our area, again, because nobody knows what rec therapy is,
yep,
what is it? And then, with, not to get political because I'm not, but, with the constant, up and down of the economy and everything else, part of that is, okay, is what I do, am I able to bill for it? The short answer is yes. However, you still have to, navigate in which direction you can do that with and all that.
yeah,
So it's not a it's not an easy thing to try to work through, but I I am in the process of trying to open up my own private practice,
Good.
basically to predominantly work with individuals, with mental health um, diagnosis, and then like the addiction, recovery
Yeah.
aspect of it as well.
Good. So Jeremy said yes. His rec therapist was through the VA.
Yes.
So
yes, they do. Especially, I'm not sure at the local branch if we have any, but I know, like, again, the bigger cities, they do offer. They have rec therapy through the VA as well.
Yeah. And it might be something to check into locally, like when you're ready. I mean, because I think what you're offering is amazing. It's the same thing because you don't really hear a lot about it. Same thing with the neurosomatic art. People are like, man, this is intriguing. I've never even heard of this before. And I'm like, yeah, and chances are you probably won't. You won't, because I'm the only one in our area that does it. And so it makes us unique and one of a kind. But then it's like, oof, people are like, I don't even know what it is. And so, but I love that you're given that option to go out on your own, because I think when God shifts you, he's going to shift you in a way that you're going to be like, you're going to have to hold on. Like he's going to shift you and elevate you to a place that people are just they're going to know you and start recognizing you. And so that's why, when I shifted, I couldn't talk about God on, I talk about God on here. I don't even care what they think. I always tell them, if you don't want to hear about God, you can leave. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's fine. If you don't want to hear about it, that's fine. But really quick. So when God shifted me from my traditional talk coaching into doing the art, and then that art was very restrictive. And so I went out, not me, but through, God, the Holy Spirit, and I wrote 20 different frameworks, which are 20 different programs that trauma survivors can use in a 24-week session with me. And so I see where God's elevating, and God is like, hey, wait a minute. And I'm like, I'm holding on because I don't even know what's yet to come. But I think the doors are, they're finally opening for me, and I can truly see these doors opening for you because of what you have to offer. And the passion that you have, and just being able to help. Thank you, Scott. He said, I always like to hear about God. Oh, don't get me started. We could be here and talk about God for the next 10 years, buddy. No, especially Christina. She's a Christian too. But I just love it because I really see that God's going to open a door for you. I really do. And even living in a small area, you do have to meet where they are, but don't let that area, don't just feel like you got to stay settled here. You might be able to drive 15, 20 minutes, and you never know, so don't, coming from the neurosomatic art that I deal with blocks and limitations, don't let that stop you. Just, you're ready to soar. God's going to open and do, I don't know. I just don't want to preach to you, but I just feel like God's going to be like, okay, here we go.
Well, I needed it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Because he is like, I don't know, just something. I just think you're going to be elevated. A lot of people need it. And I really think, looking at talking to like your local VA places, like in Allglaze, Allen County, go to the VFWs, maybe talk to like the, whatever they are, the leaders, commanders, whatever they are, places like that. And if you can bill insurance and you can take state insurance, or the VA will pay, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of people you'll be able to help, especially the vets. I'm not saying that the young kids don't need it, because they do as well. But trust me, if I could get in to work with the vets and do my art, I would. But because I'm not licensed, I'm only certified, they won't let me. And I'm like, that's fine, that's okay. But yeah, so don't let those limitations or blocks come to your mind. I can't wait to see your journey. I can't wait to see that door open for you to fly. I can't wait to see that. And if you need anything, I'm always here to help you. I'll help you. You're welcome. I'll help you. shoot, I have to help myself, try and people like, I don't know what to do, but they kind of go hand in hand. Think about it.
Yes.
They do go hand in hand and stuff like that too. So yeah. Dave said, what about us old kids? Oh, shoot. Well, yeah, she can help you too.
Yep.
It's young to old and in between.
Yep.
So, and stuff like that too. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of benefits to exactly. So I do want to ask you, this was one of the questions too. And, I love where the conversation is, things like that. But I do want to ask you, what inspired you to become a recreational specialist?
So this is kind of where what I briefly mentioned at the beginning kind of comes full circle. So I had no idea what recreational therapy was when I started looking at, programs for, after high school and all of that. I had never heard of it. So I had been looking in the medical field, and, the healthcare industry, and had basically narrowed it down to occupational therapy and went on a visit to the University of Toledo, thinking that I was going to, like do their like career day or whatever you want to call it. I don't remember. But anyways, basically checking out the campus and that program. And then, they started talking about recreational therapy. And I was like, what is that? Like, I totally had no idea what I was getting myself into, because I truly thought that what I was going there for was occupational therapy, and they just called it something different. But as they started talking about the program, number one, I will say flat out that when I realized that I only had to go to school for 4 years as opposed to 5, that was the initial, that was the initial, yay moment. But then when I realized that it was like recreational therapy, was more about the whole person, and using what they like to do for fun, that was more of my thing, because I'm the kind of person that if I'm very laid back, and you know, I I would rather people be enjoying themselves. So if I can, use therapy in the ways that, it's already things that they enjoy, great. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. Isn't that something though? So yeah, so it's a 4-year degree.
It is.
Now you're certified.
And
How long have you been one?
um, so I graduated in 2008. So I can't think of what that
Oh
is.
wow, that long.
Yes.
Six, almost 17 years,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Wow.
and rec therapy is one of those. So unlike, unlike occupational therapy or physical therapy, we are not licensed at the present either. There
Okay.
are 6 states, I believe, in the US that they do have licensure, and there are several more that are working towards that. But if you are not in one of those states, then it's still the national certification.
Okay.
So yeah, so I took my national certification test in towards the end of 2008 and have been certified since.
Good for you. That's a long time, but good. We definitely need to get that door open for you. Yep, it's coming. It's coming. Woohoo!
Patience
Just
is not
yeah.
my strong point, by the way.
What did you say? I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I said patience is not my strong point, by the way.
Oh no, no, no. Oh, yeah. You should see mine. I don't have patience at all. Trust me. And one thing I won't do is ask God for patience, because He'll sit you in front of a train that takes 25 minutes to
Yep.
go along, and I would like, really, God, really? So yes, so I
Yep.
get it. I don't have a lot of patience either. I'm learning. I'm learning to have patience. It's hard.
Yes.
And things like that. I'm really learning to buckle down and things like that, because it's like when we want it, but it's all in God's timing. And it's like, oh man. And so it's really looking at everything and saying, okay, and stuff like that too. And so I think it's a matter of just embracing yourself, or brace yourself for what's coming. Because when
Both.
that door is open, yes, when that door is open, it's like, oh my goodness, and things like that. God's going to shower you, and the things that you can do to help people are just absolutely amazing. With what you have to offer, and things like that too. And it is, like I said, I just think a lot of people don't, in the areas that we live in, a lot of people just don't understand, probably haven't heard about it. And so we really need to get together and figure out, we need to do some sort of, we've talked about it before, we need to do some sort of like a mental health, uh, I don't even know what you would call it, but we need to figure out something to do and really start, because there's, think about it. There's the things that I do. And so there's benefits obviously to both, because, um, a part of healing is this. I wrote a book on this, and it took me a little while because of my trauma brain to figure out like how this worked. And so, I read, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Bessel van der Kolk from The Body Keeps the Score.
No.
Okay. So we talk about that book a lot on here. It's The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about how trauma actually lives in the body. So trauma lives in the body. Gabriel Maté, another one, he will talk about the traumatic experiences. They are what shapes the subconscious. And so all your traumatic experience go into your subconscious. It lives in the body as well. And then Pete Walker, same thing. He did a book on thriving, surviving to thriving, or something like that. And it was like, complex trauma, how to overcome complex trauma and stuff like that too. So as I'm going through and I'm reading, why I'm telling you this is because this could help as well, is that, a lot of people don't understand is that trauma lives in the body. So you have to work on the body, the physiological portion of things, before you can work on the mind. And a lot of people don't understand that you need to work on things to start releasing and eliminating the trapped emotions. That's what it is. So when you started talking about the teens, and you were saying how, or not the teens, but maybe it is the teens or the kids that you work with, the reason that I feel a lot of them are getting irritated is obviously their nervous systems are dysregulated and their emotions are dysregulated. And they're not given the tools and resources that they need, to start rewriting and reprogramming their subconscious. And so that anger and all of that stuff, it's not that it's the triggering that's driving all of those emotions coming up. And a lot of people don't know that. And so that was a big one for me, because of all the years that I've spent in therapy. And so I was like, why is things not changing for me? And when I started digging deeper and I started studying under Dr. van der Kolk, he's one of the top leading, he actually opened, I think it's called the Trauma Something Foundation in Massachusetts. They hold a huge trauma conference every May. It's amazing. I'd like to go one of these years. I'll get there. But he is just a phenomenal person. And it was his book, The Body Keeps the Score. When I read that book, I started sobbing, because it was that book within the first chapter that I knew I wasn't losing my mind, that it was the trauma, the after effects of the trauma that I've endured that were actually coming out. And I was like, oh, wow. And so I talk about that book on here an awful lot, because it was a lifesaver for me as well. And I also tell, all of my guests and stuff, that watch, and, my listeners and things like that too, that, trauma survivors, you need to work on your body, because sometimes it's the body that drives the thoughts. The same with anxiety. You just can't work on the anxiety. You have to look on what's causing the triggering that's causing the anxiety to flare up. A lot of people don't understand that either. And so that's probably what's happening with those kiddos too, is that their nervous systems and their emotions are all out of whack, and trying to figure out what's going on with them, the poor kids. It's tough. It's tough. So it's really needed. And so, yeah, we'll have to definitely see about getting together and maybe, figure out something for maybe next year, and, do something and stuff like that too, and bring in, because there's a lot of hidden gems.
There is.
And people just don't know about them and the benefits that they have. And so I'd love to be able to do something too, because, I've seen, like I said, I've seen the benefits with Jeremy, and, and things like that too. And just watching, and and just listening to other people, even if it's just scrolling to TikTok or other YouTube videos and recreational therapy and things like that. And I was like, oh, that is pretty cool, and things like that too. So it's amazing, and there's just so many benefits. And I just think, again, it's just underlooked, and there's so many unknowns that people just don't know about. So yeah,
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions for Christina or myself? Yeah, this has been a good talk. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and kind of shed some light on exactly what it is, and at least get to see you and meet you. We're not face to face yet, but at least I get to see you and meet you this way, and eventually I'll get to meet you face to face and stuff like that and things like that too. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have any other questions or anything like that. So been on almost an hour, which I love. That's usually about the times that we go. Is usually about 45 minutes to an hour is what we usually go. I don't. Sometimes there's times that I'm on here, and there was a time I think I was on here before, and it was like, I don't even know. We might have been on here for almost 2 hours,
Oh
but
my God.
we just get into conversations, and then and that's when I have guests on, and we just get into conversation. The conversation just gets so not heavy in a bad way, but heavy and deep, and I'm like, oh, this is going somewhere. I probably should have broke it up and did like a part two, and things like that too. And I was like, oh, it's okay. We do have a question for you. So Sly wants to know, what's your favorite thing about your job?
I it's always different every day. Um, even working with the clients, like they're obviously on their own journey. So, um, it's going to sound bad the way it comes out, but I get to see them at their worst and at
Yes.
the time, working through to get to their best. I've seen them, in both scenarios, and just especially when something clicks and it's like, oh, I can do that, or I didn't realize that this actually was helpful, or that kind of a thing. So
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
exactly.
No, I love that. I love that because that's, when you're able to meet someone where they're at and to help them get to where they want to be, that's huge. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what I always say. He said that's a great thing. It never sounds bad. And so I agree with him, because that is, you get to see them and you get to help them transition into somebody different, somebody new. And so that transformation is huge. And I think that's what I love, not to say, not to take that away from you, but that's what I love too. Like, I get to see them all raw and this way and that way. And then when you see you're involved in their journey, you are a part of helping them get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that, because that's a huge thing. A lot of people are like, I don't want to be in that mess. Oh no, put me in that mess. Not that I want credit, but I want to walk alongside you, and I want to witness that transformation.
This isn't like a huge transformation, and if I told you his story, you'd be like, that doesn't really sound like a good transformation. But one of the kids that I don't work with him currently, but about a year ago, again, struggled with anger management, and that piece of, and he had lots of trauma, and I can guarantee that I don't even know half of it, but was one of those kiddos that just struggled with his anger. So I decided to take him to a putt golf course near us, and around me he was one way, for the most part. Like, he would get angry and upset, but it wasn't like trying to beat the crap out of somebody, or trying to punch holes in walls and whatnot. But it was really cool to see him in a completely different light than I had ever seen him before that, because I took him to the putt golf course, and I'm thinking, okay, if this goes great, awesome. But I could see where, he takes the golf club, and if he gets mad, like he could throw it in the lake, or what, like, I'm thinking all these things that could happen, and I'm like, well,
Yep.
we'll just see what happens. But it was really cool because you could see the wheels turning in his head the whole time we were there. Um, he has a decent sized family, but again, the lack of support was very much their whole family has trauma, and basically every single person. Um, so they're physically there for each other, but mentally, that's a whole different story. So they don't, they might do some things together once in a while, but he never really has great, positive influences in his life. So we go there not realizing that the putt-putt golf course is not open yet for this season because it was before Memorial Day.
Okay.
And there's an older gentleman, I'm going to say 75, 80-ish, and he has his little putt-putt golf stuff, and he's, tinkering around, practicing and what have you, because if you had your own clubs, then you could, still use it.
Okay.
And this kid is just sitting back, not saying anything, but just taking it all in, watching this guy. Doesn't think to ask the guy if he can possibly, borrow his clubs or whatever, but isn't upset that it's not open, isn't upset that the guy, is there. The gentleman comes over and says, I have an extra club and some balls. Would you like some? And he's like, yeah. He's getting super excited. And this kid played horrible. But you could just, he was a whole different kid there. He was, he was in his own realm. He didn't have anybody, hurrying him up. He didn't have people telling him what to do. Like, he could just be the kid for a little bit. The kid not getting yelled at. The kid, not doing this wrong, not doing that wrong. And even when he, quote unquote, lost it, like not literally lost it, but like wasn't doing well at the very end. Again, like I said, like he could have thrown the club, he could have, done all kinds of things. And he kept his patience the whole entire time. And when we got back in the car for me to bring him home, all he could say was, that guy was so nice. And he, basically, again, taking the time to let him, do that. So it just, obviously every case is different, but again, it's that fact that somebody else cared for him.
Yep.
He didn't care that he didn't have his own clubs. He was just excited to be able to play for, a half hour. And the guy, it was so cute. The guy was like, I can give you some pointers if you want. And he said, no, thank you. But I was like, well, at least you no, thank you. But it was like, that's all he, and granted, he only lived like 5 minutes away, but that's all he talked about the whole entire way home. And then to his mom, really didn't get along with, that's all he talked about with her and like all these things. And it's like, and that was a half an hour activity, so again, it's, it's working on all these things, but to a kid, they're just playing putt-putt golf, but I explained to him, I'm like, you don't realize what you were doing. I was like, you had patience, you had to problem solve, you had to do all these things, in order to be able to play. And I said, you just did a whole bunch of stuff that you don't normally do, and you rocked at it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And even if it was a small win, but I love, because I think, even that gentleman coming up and showing a little bit of kindness to him and saying and offering that, hey, I have an extra one, showing that, he cared, or, offering that kindness to him and things like that too. And I love that. And just, letting him be a kid, because a lot of these kids that have trauma, their family has trauma, mental health, and it's passed down. A lot of times they don't have that escape. They go to school, and then what? It happens at school, and then they come home and it's the same thing. And it's like, holy mackerel. So just being able to get them away from that environment, and things like that too, is really, really helpful. And I wish they would bring back one of the things that, that saved saved my life when I was going through my traumatic experiences at my home was the school that I attended had an after school program. And I absolutely loved it. We were able to watch movies. They helped us with homework. They would feed us if we had to. They would, and it was just knowing that somebody was there and somebody cared.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what these kids need. And so, what you're doing is exceptional because you're on that other side, even though you're a professional, but you're coming at it, you're giving them, the kindness, love, compassion, and those types of things that they need. And so, they know that, hey, if my life at home's not good, at least I know that I have what I need, or not what I need, but, I can do things with Christina and, and things like that too. And so I love that as well. But, and that's, so even if it's a little win, because I guess while you're saying that, I was like, man, I guess she's right. I never thought of putt like that. But you're naming all these things, and I was like, holy mackerel! Like, yeah, I mean, you have to be attentive to throw, to hit it so it goes in the hole. So I'm like, that is problem solving. Oh my goodness! Like, holy crap! I never realized all of that stuff. So
back to the fishing. So
yeah, and I'm like, wow. So it's the same thing. Yeah, exactly. Fishing and stuff like that too. So I love that. So yeah, and celebrate those wins and make sure that he's celebrating those wins and things, because that's huge. And and for him to come out and then talk to his mom or whoever else, he was so excited because just for that moment, he mattered.
Exactly.
And that's what these kids need, is that to know that they matter. And in that moment, he mattered. And he was like, oh, wait a minute, I really mattered. This gentleman went out of his way to offer me something. I matter.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, I love that. So I don't think we have any more questions, but we will end on that because that's a beautiful note to end on. I love that. Transformations are absolutely beautiful. They're good, ugly, beautiful. The transitioning and the transformations and things like that. And so that's a beautiful note to end on. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that comes week after week and listens. I hope you gained a lot of insights into exactly what a recreational therapist does, how it's beneficial for not only for trauma survivors and those that struggle with mental health, but there's just so many other aspects to it that could help you. And so if you have any more questions or anything like that, I'm sure you could reach out. I will actually link. I'll get with Christina and link something. So if you have any more questions for her, I'm sure she'll answer some things for you and things like that too. And as always, we appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Make sure that you like. If you're new, you can subscribe and hit the bell, and you'll get subscriptions or notifications, not subscriptions. Sorry, you'll get notifications. My goal is to start doing more videos as soon as my eyes are a little bit better and I can actually sit and see. But make sure that you share, because as always, you never know who would be able to benefit from seeing something like this. And so Sly said, thank you, Christina. Have a great week. Dave said, thank you. Scott said, thank you, ladies. A very good show. And so you all are very welcomed. And so we will tune in next Monday at 7:30 Eastern for another episode of Transformative Healing on mental health and trauma. We hope that you have a wonderful week, a blessed week, and we will see you next week. Thank you again, Christina.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.
Bye.